Hi, everybody. I'm Carmen DeValis and founder of Doggies for Dementia. And this is Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia, where we talk about really important topics for caregivers, family caregivers especially. And today's guest is Shannan Conway, who has a beautiful story herself of why she does what she does. And we're going to talk about assisted living, memory care, and try to answer some of those bigger questions that families have. So welcome, Shannan.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I am the Director of Operations for Platinum Resort Assisted Living and Memory Care. I help run a 16-bed residential home that is in the middle of construction right now. So that's what I'm doing these days.
Yeah, so that's a lot. So lots to learn and to build on what you've been doing. And so you said assisted memory and memory care. So that's perfect because that's what we're going to talk about. What I know myself, there's a lot of confusion with all the different terms. We've got independent living, assisted living, memory care, and then the nursing home care, nursing care, skilled nursing care, and everybody gets lumped into nursing home in the media, right?
Right.
So yeah.
I think most people think of skilled nursing when
Mm-hmm.
they think of care or elderly care, and it's different. There are a lot of
Oh,
different categories, and everybody falls in a different category.
yeah. So I'll tell you, when I was writing my book and speaking to people, I heard a few myths about dementia. And one for sure was that most people are with dementia are in a nursing home, and pretty much their vision of that was like, well, in a wheelchair where they're just kind of sat in front of the window and they're wrapped up in blankets. I thought,
Yeah,
wow, that's not true. That's not true at
that's
all.
definitely a myth. There are
That's a myth.
tons of residential home memory cares that are different than a nursing home sitting in front of a window,
Yeah,
wasting their life away. There are plenty of places that have foundations for Alzheimer's dementia that cater to those needs.
right. Yeah, and it's a real special, it's really a specialty, and it takes a very special person to do the work because it's difficult and emotional, and we're working with families at what might be a really crisis time for them with the questions, what do we do? And so much guilt and shame is wrapped around it. And I'm all for let's get the information out there to help with that and reduce all those feelings. So yeah.
There are a lot of people who think they have the niche to take care of elderly people with dementia, but you really have to have the heart. You have to have patience. You have to have the skill setting. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to be willing to adapt to their lifestyle. You have to learn how to play in their world. And it's difficult for people who have never taken care of people with dementia or Alzheimer's. In fact, you know, they remember them as the husband, the father, the the pilot, the doctor. And when they get into these settings of having Alzheimer's and dementia, they change. They're no longer who we used to visualize them. And so loved ones forget that. And it's very difficult, and it really triggers your emotions, your thoughts, and
Mm-hmm.
how it plays on your family roles. So it's very difficult for family members to be caregivers because they can't look past what they used to be. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's where, in the 17 years that I've done dementia and Alzheimer's, that's where I really took to heart of training to learn how to educate families, how to educate myself, and how to educate the resident, because we now live in their world. We no longer live in the world where they were the provider, they were the doctor. And so it does take a special person to engage in resident care. And so
Totally.
you
Yeah.
have to really evaluate who you are. Is this something that you can do on a daily basis that doesn't burn you out, that doesn't stress you out? Because if you are the type of person that gets burned out or stressed out quick, you're gonna put those emotions on that resident. And what happens is it gives them less quality of life. And so
Right.
we want to change that. We want to give them quality of life.
Yeah, and it requires a big mindset change, and that's a tough one when someone has been in that role. Let's say you have a daughter to mother or father, suddenly you have to change roles and learn new things. And I think sometimes the idea of being a caregiver is like, oh, okay, well, you just take care of them, and is so much more than that on many different levels, right? And I know that's what you're trying to say is that you got to learn some new stuff and mindset change and
program yourself. You have to reprogram your mind that you are no longer this person's daughter. I mean, you are in essential, but you're taking on that role now. I'm going to be the one who bathes them. I'm going to be the one who redirects them. I'm the one who's going to have to medicate them. I'm the one who now has to no longer have them be my protector. I'm now their protector. I'm now stepping into the role of being their guardian, being their POA, where when you're a child, you're used to your parents taking, in control of being your parent. But you have to flip that role. You have to flip that role now. Now you're the caretaker, you're the parent, you're the person who's in charge of their medical. You have to make big decisions. And so you have to reprogram your mind that you are now a different person.
That's a big,
the relationship has changed.
It's huge. One of the families I got to know when when writing Just See Me, is a wife and her husband's a little older than her, and they had a beautiful love story. But she said, I got to the day where I looked at it and I said I could either be his wife and the one who loves him and his companion, or I could be the one who bathes and feeds and dresses and gives medicine. But I had a hard time doing both. And it was a conflict, and because the priority had to have been the personal care and all that went with that. And she said, I was exhausted then and had feelings of resentment that I did not like, but I couldn't help it. And I tried to work with it and I just couldn't help it. And then that's when she decided on placement. And I think most families come to that to a point, instead of looking at as a failure, they could look at it as, well, I want to be that. I want this other role still and just love them and you can still be an advocate and be involved in things, but not be the primary deliverer of that care, right? And so, and that's, I think, why assisted livings and memory cares came along. Ultimately.
Yeah, I think that's, I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that's where assisted living and memory came from. People have, they get burned out. They decide, what? I can't be a caregiver. I can't be I can't do all these things. It's too hard. I want to be the daughter. I want to be the wife. I want that relationship. And so that's where I come in.
And it's not a failure. It is not a failure. It's again, a mindset change, right? To say, okay, that's just not what I choose to do for them.
It's a different program. You decide, okay, so what now do I have to do? I can't be the caregiver, but I want to give the best care to my loved one. So you go out and research, depending on what stages of Alzheimer's, dementia, or if you're independent living or assisted living, you decide, okay, where does my loved one fall in these categories? Where does I'm going to use my dad. Where does my dad fall at? Does he fall out independent? Can he take care of himself totally? Or does he need assisted living where he needs minimal help, but he can still do all these things? Or does he need memory care where he needs someone to redirect him? Or does he need
constant supervision?
24 hours a day? Or does he need skilled nursing where he needs full care? So you have to decide, look at your loved one and decide what categories they fall into. And then there's lots of resources out in the community. You got to narrow it down to what fits you. Because not
Right.
all assisted living is run the same way. Not all assisted livings or memory cares or ALs do they offer what your family needs.
Okay,
So,
I'm going to ask a question then. So let's say, so I have a loved one and I don't know what kind of care they need. I don't even know who to call, but I call them. I think, well, I think maybe it's assisted living. I think maybe it says Alzheimer's care. So that sounds appropriate. And I call. What happens then?
okay, so if you call an assisted living, you're going to reach a marketer, you're going to reach the executive director, you're going to reach someone in their office. They're going to give you resources of what they can offer you. And then they have self-assessments that they do. They can do an
Mhm.
assessment on your loved one, and it will tell them what kind of care your dad or mom needs. And so then they can redirect you to the proper placement of your loved one. And also your physician. Your physician can also say, you know, your parent really cannot
Mhm.
be in an AL or an independent living. He really needs to be in a memory care. And I think that's where a lot of people finally realize they need to place their loved one is after going to a doctor and the doctor says, okay, you guys can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You need to go into this facility. So there are
Right.
resources you can reach out to. Any assisted living can help you, any memory care. Everybody in this industry has a way to help you place your loved one. They all have different ways.
That's really great. Yeah, as a provider, I always said safety is the line in the sand, and the safety is key, um, because families didn't, and sometimes it took the burden off of them for me to say, I think it's time to think about placement, because then they're like, okay, it's not that I failed, it's that they need more. I'm like, okay, yes, yes, and
It
let's
definitely
see.
does.
Mhm. And of course, there's different levels of assisted living and things. So there's some specific questions when they're going through and they're asking those questions about what they can do and can't do and things. And I'm sure there's some cognitive testing along the
Yes,
way.
there's
Or,
cognitive testing, there's different types of testing that each facility has their own testing requirements that they have to go through. So if you start out at an independent living and they really go through all the testing and they say, you know what, your dad has more he needs more of assisted living. If they're a good assisted living or memory care, they're going to direct you into the right place. They're going
mhm,
to So we tell everybody we may not be the right fit for you, but we're going to help you find the right fit for you because our job, like I said, our job is not about numbers and dollar signs. Our number is about caring for residents and making sure they get in the right place. So if I'm
mhm.
not the right place for you, I'm going to direct you to the right place
Okay. So
because
we could
it's
the choosing a place then, because that's the next thing, right? So I'm looking, I'm like, I don't know, they all look the same and they're all kind of classified under assisted living or independent living. And I also want to put in here before I forget is there are people that help with who will kind of be that go-between person to talk to you about what might be the best and then go like search them for you and give you lists and things. But so if I'm thinking about an assisted living memory care, what are out there? Like I see these big like mansion like places that look like hotels almost, and then I see smaller, and then I see some places that are really, they look like houses without even much of a sign up or anything. And so what's the difference there?
So there are a lot of different communities, and I don't like to use the word facilities. I like to use the word community because facilities to me sound like an institute.
Me
We want to
too.
be in a community or a housing or a residential housing. So there are different types. There are corporate independent livings that have multiple owners, and there are privately owned operated ones. There are big box commercial independent livings, and then there are privately owned. And so I actually belong to a residential housing. So our specialty is that we're a smaller community. We offer 16-bed residential housing, and it has that country feel. It has that feel of homeness. So we have the amenities that are offered at a big community, but we have it at a lower scale where it feels like home. So you can live in a huge assisted living that has a gym that looks like a hotel or a resort. And if you like that feel, then that's great. If you want a smaller community that doesn't offer the in-house gym, but they may have better different like food or different qualities. So each resident, each assisted living, they all offer home health, hospice. They all offer the same things. It's just really how you feel as a person, where you want to go, what your likes or dislikes are. For me personally, I want to place my loved one in a house where it feels like home, it connects to them. Where my best friend, she likes the bigger communities, she likes they have the gym and the spas and all that stuff. But you kind of cater it to what your loved one remembers. Do they like the smaller, secure feeling, or how do you feel? You make a list of things that your loved one used to do when they were, at home. Do they offer those things in that community? Make a checklist off for you, because all facilities, all communities have to be ran a certain way. So it's just how you personally like them.
I see.
So there's independent, assisted living, memory care, and then skilled.
Okay. So if we're going to talk about memory care, so we're talking dementia care. So maybe a good question would be, is this privately owned? Is this a large corporation? And there's pros and cons for each. And so it's kind of a decision too. And I used to tell my families, like, go in and get a feel. When you walk in, how do you feel? And really listen to that, because the feel, it is going to be a home, and they may be there the rest of their lives. It needs to feel like comfortable and home for them, whatever that might look like, right?
I always tell everybody, tour the place. When you walk in, how does it make you feel? How does it make you feel? How does the staff make you feel? How does the ownership make you feel? But I also tell people to come different times of the day.
Yeah.
To come different times of day, because you're going to get a feel of what it feels like in the morning, what it feels like in the afternoon. If you're a community who really opens the doors for families, you're not going to worry about, oh, I'm going to set all these appointments at 9 o'clock. So it's activity time. It's, driven purposes. I want my families to see that we have downtime, that we have afternoon snacks, that we offer what we say we offer. Because I'm just going to be honest, I've been to facilities and they say, we offer all these things, but they tour everybody during exercise, or they tour everybody during art class. I'm going to be honest. I want you to come during the afternoon when all my residents are napping, so you get that feel.
So that would be an important question too, or to say, I would like to come visit at different times. And if the place that you're at is not real open to that, then that's a big red flag for you to really get a good feel for it, right? Yeah. And then, I had a thought too, the question about staffing. And so, of course, number of staff is one thing we think of, or how many staff per resident, or how many residents per staff. But then I think too, a really important question is turnover. What's the turnover like? Because staff changing is a huge stressor for everybody involved.
So I think with staffing, again, it takes a real special person to take care of a resident. So when you are hiring and you are evaluating a caregiver, or in your interview session, you really got to dig in and get those questions. You really need to dig in and find out if this is a job, or is this a career, or is this a passion? And I think because of how the turnover is so great in our industry, that people now just want to fill the numbers for resident cares. And I, you can train anybody. I think if they really have the heart and they really have the desire, and you put the effort into training them and give them the tools that they need, then they're going to be successful. So for my community, if you're not a CNA or a med aide, but you have that passion and your desire,
So
and
CNA is a certified nursing assistant. Okay.
yeah, and a med
Okay.
aide is a certified med aide. I think the way to handle that is really look at their heart, look at their compassion, look at how, healthy mind, healthy spirit, because anybody can love a resident and give them the best care. Qualifications aren't always
Yes.
the best care.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can have titles behind your name, but it's really what's in your heart and how you desire to take care of somebody. And so I think the turnover is managers need to learn that their employees are not working for you. You are working for those employees. And being a loyal manager and investing in your resident aides, your caregivers, your CNAs, I think that is the change that needs to happen. And if you really invest into your employees and really get that mind frame that you work for them, they don't work for you, you're going to have less of the burnout and the turnaround. And that's big in communities because Alzheimer's and dementia, they need steady and routine people. They need to see the same face every day, and they need to have the same people caring for them because they get into that routine and that schedules. If you have dementia or Alzheimer's, you see someone every day. They may not know my name, but they know my face, and they know that I'm there to feed them, to give them security, to give them quality of life.
Right.
You build that trust without even having words or a name or a name badge. They see you. They see you every day. And so that's a big issue in assisted living and memory care, of having management turnover a lot, having staffing turnover a lot, and it's basically burnout because they're not getting the right educations, they're not getting the right tools, they're not getting the right hand, they're not getting the stuff that they need. And so
I'm so with you on that one, Shannan. That's a whole big discussion around the state of our care right now for elder care. And I just read some articles recently about the protective equipment and, who's getting the extra help and who's not. And those that care for elderly are like the last on the list, if at all. And that's a whole another, which we will talk about, because I get really fired up about that. I get really fired up about that.
If it's your passion, you can go for days, just like, let me shell it out. But I think the big thing in turnovers, and families notice this. I actually went to a seminar, and the first thing they said was, one of the residents' family is, we've had 3 executive directors in the 2 years that my mom has been there. So security is a big thing. Ask them, how many executive directors have been in your facility? How many nurses have you had? How many,
So a family member could ask that. That's a good question. I'm with you there.
Because if I was looking to place my loved one of the questions that I would ask was, what is the turnover in your community? Because that's going to be a red flag to you. That's going to be a trigger.
Yes.
Why aren't they keeping their employees? Why aren't they keeping their executive directors? Why aren't they keeping their nurses' aides? These are red flags, because if they can't handle their staffing, then how can they handle my loved one?
Well, absolutely. And caring for someone with dementia means you get to know them. You get to know the physical signs of how they're feeling, because they may not be able to tell you. And so a change in staff means here comes somebody brand new who doesn't know them, and it's starting from scratch. And it is one of the scariest things for families that I worked with is turnover. And then that's when I would get the call. They're like, okay, my choice is to move them somewhere else that may not be any better. And that's a whole big change and traumatic also, or stay where it is. But now the staff, when one person leaves, many leave, and we're scared. We're really, really scared. So I think the turnover question is so important. And I would say that it should be almost one of the first. Yeah, amenities, all that's really great. But what about the people? The
Well,
people.
transition is so hard on residents. It really is because they get adapted to their area, to their
Mhm.
surroundings, to the people who care for them, and taking them out of their environment and switching them to another environment is so hard on them. I've
Yeah,
actually seen residents who have transferred, and it's been so hard that they actually pass away or they get sick and
decline. Yeah.
they decline. And so finding the right placement is very important. It's,
Mhm.
but if you do get in a community and it's not the right fit for you, if you research and you really look into other options and you don't jump right away and you find the great fill, if you're a good assisted living and memory care director, will help you transition they will transition you in a different way, and
Mhm.
they will help you get over that transition hump, because there are ways that you can transition that is not going to affect the residents if you
Yeah.
really take the time.
Yeah, because it's a hard thing. It's hard for the families, it's hard for the person with dementia, and how do you deal with that? But yeah, definitely that's yeah. So turnover is a big question. How many staff is another one. Amenities, of course, and then everybody has to think about price. And what one of the myths too that I heard for people who say, well, yeah, but most people with dementia are older, so Medicare pays for everything, which maybe I would have thought that too had I not known that actually not at all in that case. And it's so people are looking for the best value also. They have to think about it because there's X amount of dollars for how many years, we don't know, and what the options out there. So, and I know that's different between assisted and memory care, and plays a part in families' choices too, which, sad but true. It has to.
Majority of assisted living and memory care are all privately paid. That's one thing that kind
So
of,
it means
yeah,
families have to pay for that somehow.
they can either have, so a lot of people have long-term life insurance and they can use that for expenses, but a lot of policies only last 2 to 5 years, or some of them only cover $100 a day, so families are still forking out the rest of the money. It's hard in assisted living and memory care because the state does not pay for those. I really wish they would. I
Mm-hmm.
really wish that most of them, you have to have almost lost all your money to get into skilled nursing. You have to be almost broke to get into skilled
Yes.
nursing.
No
Um,
assets.
no
Yeah. No
assets at all.
assets.
And so it's hard when you're placing your family, what fits in your budget may not fit the care of your resident.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like when you buy a shirt. When you buy a $20 shirt, it may have more quality of life,
Mm-hmm.
but you're stuck with an $8 budget. So you're going to have to get something that's thinner and maybe
Yeah.
not as pretty, but also, there are cheap, it just depends on who's running the communities, because if I may be a lower community, but I may have really great staffing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a win-win or a lose-lose kind of thing, but
Right.
it is very expensive to be in assisted living and memory care.
Yeah.
But it,
No matter where. I mean,
no
it's
matter
still, we're
where,
still talking thousands,
yes,
thousands.
anywhere from
Five
five, usually about 5,000 plus
per month.
per month. per
Yeah.
month. But you got to remember, this is covering their food, their housing, 24-hour care, staffing. It's covering everything. So your
Right.
money is being used wisely, but it might not fit your budget. And those
Hmm.
are where families are falling into, well, I have to care for dad because I don't have this money. He doesn't have this money. So
Hmm.
I hope in future
Yeah.
long term that we can get the government and the state to change that we could have where the state helps more assisted living and memory cares to be able to budget families a little better.
Yes, because it would appear by looking at various laws and things that are even coming to play, say during a crisis time, as in the COVID time, the it would appear that elderly are less valued. Like the older we get, especially those that are in care and the staff, the people that are caring for them. When you look at what's, see, these are the things that get me fired up again. But when you look at what's happening, that they're getting left out or not getting near as much when they're caring for some of the most vulnerable and specialized uh, I don't want to say patients, but clients that there are out there. And even in nursing school, that was 40 years ago, but all the educative stuff, the classes on gerontology just more recently, and I would say in the last couple of decades, did it become a specialty more, and more courses on it and things, because in truth they were the most complex cases for all of socially, emotionally, and physically. And so I think we have a long way to, I'll just say that, we have a long way to go in our country.
We do have a long way to go. And I think people forget, like, if you go to a skilled nursing and you really talk to some of these residents, they used to be doctors and lawyers and school teachers, and they get forgotten. They get
Yeah.
forgotten and they're pushed into a long hallway with 13 to 15 other residents, and they're just sitting there. And it breaks my heart because these were once people who made the way for us. We
Yeah.
wouldn't be here today for half of those people. We wouldn't have our car and our houses and stuff that we have today if it wasn't for the people, for the older generation,
Yeah.
take care of us. And so that's one of the things I love about taking care of people, is to really dig into their lives and what they
Hmm.
used to do and what they liked and didn't like. And so that's why I love assisted living and memory care, and that's where I work at, because I know these people need us, and I
Yeah.
know they once took care of me. They once,
Hmm.
maybe not personally, but they once did great things. They mothered children. They,
Yeah. Yeah,
you know,
every life is valuable, and because we get older doesn't mean that we're not valuable. And yeah, again, don't get me started. That's another day. That's another topic. I'm planning something to talk about on a live, and I actually, well, first I got to check a few resources to make sure that the information I'm reading is correct. But then I thought I got to cool down first, because
well, you watch, because I'm going to say this on your show. Shannan Conway and Laura Shakavis is going to change the view of assisted living and memory care, because my goal in life is that no one is left behind. And so
I love that.
senior care, senior care is going to be part of my goal in life to make a voice for, because it is important to me. It's my passion, it's my calling,
Yeah.
and it's my desire. And senior living to me needs a voice. And so
Yes.
I'm calling all administrators out right now. Let your voice be heard, because they are worth it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you heard it here first, guys. You heard it here first. We need that. We need that so much. And maybe because too, I'm in my 60s, and then I think about it, I'm like, okay, what's it going to be like in 20 years or even 10 years? And when I look at how those that I've cared for and in my own family, and just in general, it's appalling. And just, and I don't mean the direct care so much as just in general, and that we're left with wondering what to do, and it needs to be revolutionized.
It does. And we're
Hmm.
all gonna be, I mean, we're all gonna be old. We're all gonna need care one day. So if we can change what assisted living care and memory care look like today,
Yeah.
it could be valuable for when we're that age and we need that care.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great to say, yeah, when we look back and say, yeah, we revolutionized a whole industry, or a whole mindset around aging.
And it's gonna take a tribe. It's not one
Hmm.
person to do it. It's gonna take a lot of people to stand up and say, okay, we
Hmm.
need these laws changed. We need these different things changed for this community. And
Yeah.
so I am the first to say that I am willing to be a voice to change the outlook of assisted living and memory care, to train staff, to learn new tools to help our population in senior care.
That's good. I love that. Y'all heard it here. That's it is, and what is just like music to my ears. So that's
We're not
wonderful. You know.
competition. I think that's one thing people get wrong. We're not a competition. There's
Hmm.
AL, there's assisted living, there's memory care, and there's skilled nursing.
Hmm.
If there are enough residents in this community to fill every one of our houses. And if we all stuck together and build a tribe, these families would have
Hmm.
phenomenal care. And if we all stop thinking that we're competitors, then we
Hmm.
could change assisted living and memory care. And like I said, I'm the first to say it. I'm no one's competitor.
Yeah.
I'm everyone's tool, and I am willing to help any community. And so this is about helping families. This is about
Yes.
helping residents.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I go to a lot of different group meetings, networking groups and things. And I'll say this, in our area, which is in Austin, Texas, the networking groups for the basically elder care providers, but from a lot of different like support areas, people who do various things and that. But there's just a certain energy around that. It's people helping people, and like we're all in it together. And how do we support one another? And I think that what, like to write on what you're saying is like gather that energy, gather that group energy, and have a voice with others that are doing really great things, that and have a voice that it needs to be bigger. It just needs to be bigger, and to
in
join in.
Georgetown, we're the same way. There are a lot of administrator, Westland, the reserves, the legacy, who want to change the population. And
Hmm.
so there are
Yes.
a lot of groups, and ask that. If you're a family member, ask, are you supporting other facilities? Do you network with other communities?
Hmm.
Ask that,
Yeah.
because that's a big question too.
That is, because that is a very deep question, really. It's like, what do you know about what's happening in the community? Who do you collaborate with? Because it's a marathon, and it's a group marathon. It's
Right.
not, it's not an only person. And, I'm pretty fortunate in that, well, both my worlds before, because I made house calls and I went to different communities and I saw. And then now for Doggies for Dementia, I'm out there working and saying, hey, let's have a voice, let's get out there, let's talk about this. And which, just it just needs to happen. It
It
needs to
does.
happen for change. First you have to let people know what's really happening, so that the change then they see a reason for the change, right?
Why we're talking about different things that you've done, I really appreciate, and this actually shows the families too, like there are other programs out there that can lead you to the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, doggies with
Yeah.
dementia. I mean, pet
Yeah.
therapy is so important to
Mm-hmm.
residents.
Yeah.
That relationship to other people. So you can find resources anywhere. And
Yeah.
so you being a voice for therapy and counseling and family care, these questions
Yeah.
that families need to hear is amazing. So you're putting a foot and a voice into the community as well. And that helps
Doing my part.
reach
Yeah.
people daily. So
Thank
I'm glad
you.
for that.
Thank you. I love this particular program too, because then I'm talking with other people that are doing great things all over the country. And what are we doing? We're getting the word out, and the different perspectives, and really makes you think, stop and think, and for Doggies for Dementia, families get to become advocates in their own with others, because they're saying, yeah, we'll do these photos and this session, and that is a whole revelation around that and what that feels like for them, which is always surprising. And then they get to be a voice for change for others.
Well, and they
And
can be a voice for themselves too.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's they're taking that step to say, hey, if we could help others, let's tell our story so that we could help others. And it feels great. Like, it feels great for them, which is, I call it the accidental activist because they don't realize what that really could be for them. And then when it happens, they're just like, wow, that feels good to know that what we've learned and gone through can help other people. And yeah, because what is it, takes a village, right?
It does. It takes a village. It takes
Mhm.
a whole community. And that's why it starts at the top. So you want to be healthy and balanced, and so that way it trickles down through your community. And
Yeah,
so again, that's where turnover doesn't happen as much, is if you're implanting good things in your life as a leader and you're putting that into your staff and then they're putting that into your resident, it's a follow direction. And
yeah,
my
because oh
go
no, go. I was going to say, I think the assumption from someone who's not in the medical world at all is that they're all created equal, and that the staff it's the same, not the same people, but the staff are basically comparatively the same. And, and I'm like, you need to ask how much education they have in dementia care. How do they prepare their staff? And so these questions about turnover and, and actually the heavy questions you may not think about, so important when it comes to looking for long-term.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
make a checklist. Make a checklist of things that, if you can stump an executive director or a tour, anyone who's going to tour your facility, and they have to research the answer for their community, those are red flags.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are red flags right there, because I should know everything that we offer in details and medical supplies and nursing. I mean, it should just
Right.
rumble off like, oh, yes, this is who handles this. This is who we can get. This is who we have. This is what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Those promises to those families are very important. And
So
so
important.
I'm not going to promise anything that I cannot keep
Mm-hmm.
or I cannot do. And the biggest thing is, I think people don't want to show their failures. The first thing I tell residents is, we're not going to be perfect. I'm not going to I'm never going to say that your loved one is never going to fall. But when we make those mistakes, you're going to be the first one who knows. And I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to not only tell you about the mistake, but I'm going to tell you about the solution to fix that mistake.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Yeah, I think I would say something that happened probably about 7 or 8 months ago. I was having coffee with a friend, and she said, I have to leave my job. And I said, why is that? She was, because I'm making promises that aren't being kept, and I can't stand it. It eats away at my heart. And so, and I, and the conversation went on a little bit, and I was just so, like, on one level, I knew that, and then on the other, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. The stories and things.
The biggest disappointment in yourself is when you tell someone that you're going to do something and can't fall back on it.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so if you're morally, or your heart's in the right place, you can't promise things to people that you can't do.
Mm-mm.
And so
No.
that's the best thing. Honesty is the best policy. And I
Right.
am going to be the first one to say, when you're coming to look for a housing or residential care, I'm going to sell you my heart because I'm genuine and I know what I can offer, but I'm also going to tell you what I can't offer because
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to set myself up for failure, but I also don't want to set the families up for failures because it's a bigger picture. When you look at this, you're not just taking care of that resident, you're taking care of their wife, their daughter, their grandchildren.
Yes.
It's a long chain of family members that they're putting into your hands
Yeah.
because I think people in this industry think, oh, we're moving in Mr. Jones and we're going to take care of Mr. Jones. No, you're going to take care of Mrs. Jones, Mrs.
Mm-hmm.
Jones' daughter, Mrs.
Yes.
Jones' granddaughter. You're going to take care of the whole family because you're providing their loved one with the care. And so if you look at the bigger picture, you're taking care of the whole world almost. You're
Mm-hmm.
taking care of, if you have 32 residents, you're taking 32 care of 32 residents plus.
Plus.
Because to be a to be responsible for someone's life, you have to give their families the tools to reassure them that you are giving them proper care, that you are helping them and their needs, because this is a big transition for the family as well.
Ooh, very, very, a lot of emotions wrapped around that. A lot. So we're talking about expectations that you're letting them know what to expect. And
Yes.
then and when things that do happen, the falls are not uncommon. And when things happen, then the big question is then what do we do? What do we do? Is there a system in place? And who do we call? Will we notify you? How will you find out?
Right.
And
There's
all
got to
those really important
be
things.
a chain of communication and
Mhm.
also a respect for each other, and trust has to be built. And to build that trust and that respect, you have to show the families your successes and you have to show them your failures. But
Mhm.
you also have to show them how you're going to overcome those failures.
Yes.
Because if I will say there is no perfect community, but there are great communities and they have
Right.
great structures and they have great plans and they have great communities. And so when you're looking at communities and you're looking to place your loved one, ask those difficult questions. What do you do if you make a mistake? What
Mhm.
happens if my dad falls? Who's going to call me? Who's going to be responsible for making sure that the doctors know that he fell? Ask those deep questions. Dig into it and find
Mhm.
out. And then you'll know if you've placed them in the right place, because that manager is going to keep you in the loop all the time. Over communicate is very important. Over
Mhm.
communicate is better than not communicating. And
Right.
so
Oh, yes. Yes.
watch for those signs and symptoms. Like,
That's another one, right? Yeah. I wonder. I think we'll put together a top 10 questions to ask.
yeah,
Those because these are really huge topics that I think again usually aren't the top ones for people because
no, I think
they just don't know what they don't know. They just
they
don't
don't.
know.
Yeah, they don't have the tools.
Uh-huh.
I've been in this industry for 17 years. So you gain these as being in the industry for so long. Like you were,
You don't look old enough for that, Shannan.
I
So you were like 12 when you started?
I have no, seriously, like next month my oldest son will turn 20 and
Oh, I
I
can't believe
turn
that.
40, and I turn 40, and he's really letting me know that I'm going to be part of the senior industry pretty soon. Like, Mom, it's not your job. You're going to be there soon. But yes, no, but it's 17 years of educating myself and educating others. And,
Hmm.
I would willingly help you make these questions for families, because families don't know how to ask these questions because, they're thinking of my
How
dad.
would you know?
Yeah,
How
how
would
would
you
you
know?
know?
How would you know? I mean, it's like
Where do you get
I
these tools?
yeah, I was talking to a friend who has this wonderful resource website and things. So it's like a hub for resources, which is fantastic. And I said, what's the most common question? And she goes, the question is, what do I do? I'm like, of course, because how do you know what to even ask if you don't even know what's out there? And this stands true almost for everything around caring for someone when you've never done it before. How would you know what
I
to ask? Because the assumption is, of course, there's no turnover because this is a great place. You just told me it's a great place. Why would there be turnover when it's a common thing? And it's not just, and, I mean, then we can get into these things that get me fired up, right? The different pay levels and just the, just the whole, is a whole bunch of stuff. So save me from that right now. That's another time.
come back to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is so many subjects on assisted living and memory care that we could sit for months and years going over all the topics. But the one thing that I think people need to put into perspective is go with your gut feeling. Your gut feeling never lies to you.
I'm with you.
People can tell you, I could sell you the grass out in my front yard, but you cannot, your gut feeling's always going to tell you, like when you walk into this place, how it makes you feel, the environment, look with your eyes, ask questions that you know that they probably don't know.
Right.
And to be observant and to make yourself be willing to go there multiple times and not just put a deposit down because it's the first place you can put your family members in there. It sounds great, Do your research. Look on the dad's website. See,
dads, tell us what dads is.
So dads is a program that it's for aging and placing, and if they have any falls or deaths or they've had any deficiencies, it gets recorded in the dad's program. And so you can go on.
Do you know, is that state or federal?
It's, I believe,
Department
state.
Aging
Department
for
of
Texas.
Aging.
Yeah, Department of Aging.
Yeah.
There are places for everybody to go to look.
Right. And so you can go to dads, and dads will tell you if they've had any deficiencies, if they've been cited for anything, if they've been turned in for any different services like wrongful death or abuses. Research those. Research dads, and compile all your information. Go to multiple places. Pile up all your information and narrow it down that way. What is going to be the best facility for my loved one? And then just like start narrowing down.
Yeah. Because I think the reflex is to say, okay, we're in crisis mode, because most people aren't shopping well ahead of time. They're looking, we got it, now is the time. And so the thought is, okay, this looks good, it kind of fits the criteria, and then problem solved. And they're worried and want to solve that problem, right? And don't know how important it is to ask these and to go do your homework.
Yeah, sadly, most people wait until they've either had a loved one fall and break a hip, or dad's now wandering down the block and he's elopement, and the police department is calling you every Friday because dad's trying to find his car. People happen to do it so quick. I encourage everybody to have a plan.
Yeah.
And start, if you know you have an aging in place, if you have a loved one, a family member over 65, and they're still living at home, do your research. You may never need to use that, but do your research. Start looking. If you're a daughter or a wife or a husband and you know your loved one has difficulties doing certain things, start now planning for your future, because
my son needs to start. He's got 3 years.
I mean, it's almost like life insurance and policies, or having your will ready,
Yeah. And it's something that needs to be talked about, better sooner than later.
I just actually had this huge conversation with my parents. My dad actually had quadruple bypass last month. And I've never talked to my parents about their finances. I've never talked to them about who owns the house and if something was to happen to them, where these things were, because in my
Right.
mind, it's not my problem, you know, until I have to deal with them. And so
Yeah, I
I
get that.
finally had to sit down and say, okay, what do I do if something happens to both of you? Where are your finances at? Do you have long-term life insurance? Do you have, you know, barrel spots? And finally, I had to have these questions now, why both of them are still cognitive, both of them know. And so, because of my thought process is, if my dad doesn't come out of this quadruple bypass, I'm going to be left with everything, and there's no questions, and I'm going to be lost in the dark. So,
Hmm.
I
Not
mean,
even sure what they want,
what they
right?
what they want, what they need. And so I had to
Yeah.
finally have that conversation, because one day I might have to place my own family and find the right fit for them.
Hmm.
And I asked them these questions like, what do you want me to do when you get this certain age? What would you prefer? How would you
Hmm.
prefer it? And so even though I have now a game plan and I kind of have you know where things are, involvement, I that's a little stress off me,
Yeah.
because when it comes to that day where I have to place my own loved one, it's going to be devastating. Even though I help
Hmm.
families through it every day, it's
Hmm.
going to be devastating. But
Uh,
I now have what they want. And so if you have the opportunity to sit down with your loved one or your family members and ask these questions, ask them now, because they're going to be important later on.
yeah. So many important things covered, Shannon. Thank you. Thank you. And, I know some of what we're talking about is a little controversial because we're actually calling it what it is. And as I said, there's much more we could do and probably will. so,
Yeah.
so thank you for that, because these are important things for families to know and to plan ahead and things. So I have a question for you before we close.
Okay.
Let me see. What makes you brave?
What makes me brave?
Mhm.
Oh, goodness. This is a
Is
question.
it? Yeah, I know. Big philosophy, huh?
I think having a support group who pushes me to get out of my comfort zone and do things that I normally wouldn't do. I actually have accountability partner, and she keeps me accountable for different things. And so
Hmm.
it makes me brave to like challenge myself to do things that I normally wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And so finding those support people in your life are very important to have, to back you up, and to be able to say, you know, you can do this, and you can do this if you reprogram your mind. And so having that accountability partner makes me brave, because normally I'm one of these people who I live by my emotions and my heart. That's what makes me good at my job,
Yeah.
because I connect to people. But also, my weaknesses are that I like to not step out of my comfort zone and be brave. And so having someone push me and say, you're going to be brave, you're going to have courage, and you're going to do this, is
Hmm.
where I get that from.
That's brilliant. Yeah. So I have this vision of them pushing you out of the box, right? And we need somebody. We need those people who can just tell us like it is, and not just be, yeah, right, you're right, okay. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah. So you're tired and you're afraid, but too bad, do it anyway,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
it's
yeah.
nice to every day get these things right. In fact, she will call me out. She'll tell me, like, hey, you need to stop and listen, because you're not listening. You know, and
Ah.
sometimes, my emotions are like, my reactions are like, what? Like, and she's gonna laugh because she's gonna watch this. I am a crier, and so I will like cry. I'm very, but that makes me who I am. That's who God made me, was to be
Mhm.
soft-hearted and compassionate and loving. And so
I agree. Yeah.
it's nice to have someone who is like, okay, so how are you gonna fix this? How are you gonna be
Mhm.
brave? How are you gonna be strong? How are you gonna be courageous today? And every
Yeah.
day she tells me to reprogram my mind. And so you can reprogram your mind to believe that you can do anything. And so that's really
Yeah.
nice to have someone who believes in you and encourages you to be a better person.
What a gift. What a gift that is, because, change is inevitable, but, either you get rolled over or you go with it. And, someone that you have like that in your life that can help persuade you and give you that, they're standing right there to say, that's okay, I got you, but you're going to do it. Right. Yeah.
You're not giving up. This is what you're going to do. In
Yeah.
fact, I had to go to her this week and tell her something that, I have to do this. And she's like, okay, get it done.
Yeah.
Like, just get it done. And in my mind, I'm like, oh no, this is going to take forever and I'm not going to be able to do it. And I'm almost 40. And she's like, so get started.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay. So it's fine.
That's really wonderful. One of my favorite hashtags that I use is starting over at 60, because I did essentially. I'm like, yeah, I don't think we could ever use age as an excuse anymore. So 40 is not an excuse. Good try though. Good try.
I've tried, but you know what? I will tell you that I actually just posted a thing on my Facebook today that setbacks are really just step forwards in life.
Mm-hmm.
That obstacles are not really obstacles if you program in your mind that they are challenges to make you a bigger, stronger person. And so that's
right.
how I'm looking at life is obstacles are not obstacles. They are steps to make me a better person.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. I love that. So the hill is just meant to get you bigger and better and to where you're doing what you should be doing.
Right. So there are things in people's lives that have happened where they think, oh, this is going to set me back. I'm not going to be able to, finish my education. I'm not going to finish, my house. These are things that are going to set me back, but they're not. If you program your mind and actually think, what solutions do I have? Fail or succeed? Which one would you choose? Succeed. So these obstacles just made you a better person because now you're going to strive harder. You're going to make a point to work on it and figure out how you're going to step forward instead of step backwards.
I love that. So step forward. Step forward to it. And it's so wonderful that you and others, but I'm going to talk about you because you're here and I think you're wonderful, that can help people with some of the hardest decisions they'll ever make. And you just gave some wonderful information on a guide for them to know what to ask, what to do, and to know they're not alone. They're not alone in that. And it's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I know our listeners for Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia are going to really get a lot out of this. And we'll write those 10 questions. We'll have that.
Absolutely. And I just want to put it out there that Platinum Resort is a residential housing unit that is going to be built on faith and strong foundation. But if we're not the right community for you, we want to help you find the right community and give you the tools so you can always call Laura or myself and we will help you find the right community.
That's so wonderful.
We are willing to put our hand out there and help you.
So we'll put your link, your contact information, and with the video in the comments as well, so people can reach out to you. I know there are people who don't live in Texas or in our area, and this is not corporate owned. This is a sole proprietor, or family owned, right?
I actually a year ago helped a gentleman and his family move there. They lived in Texas, and their mom was in Las Vegas, and I actually helped place her mom in Las Vegas, had never seen this woman, had phone conversations with 3 sons, and helped them place their loved ones. So we are willing to help you no matter what location you're at. If you want to call us and ask us questions about resident care, ask us about how to place someone, tricky questions or things to be alerted, or you just need to have someone listen to you, we're available.
That's wonderful. What a big heart you have. Thank you for being our guest today. Thank you. And I think it's just the beginning. We're going to have some more tough conversations.
Absolutely. I would love to have
yeah, I love that too. I know you think I'm kind of shy and stuff, right? But Oh no, I
You
love
have the
those.
best, you give the best hugs. I can't wait to have one of them.
I know. Yeah, but so we're recording this in May during the COVID time, even though this is evergreen. It'll go out and in the future. And yeah, I am so lonely for real people to get hugs. Yeah.
My kids call me the grandma stalker because right now our building is under construction and I go to Walmart and I'll like start helping residents or older senior population because I miss that so much, that connection, that embracing, the
Oh,
smiles, this touch of their hands. And so my kids are like, they won't go to Walmart anymore with me. They're like, nope, she's gonna be there to help people. So I cannot wait for COVID to be over because I can't wait to embrace people.
I'm with you there. I love that. You go and help people like that. See, you do have a big heart.
It's a good thing and it can be a bad thing, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. Well, thank you. And thank you all for watching. And thank you, Shannan. I'm so
Thank
grateful. And we'll
you.
see you soon.
See you later.
Okay, bye-bye.